Enrico Macias, born Gaston Granazia in December 1938 in Constantine, Algeria, is a living legend of French music, whose evocative boleros, tangos, and Mediterranean folk songs have resonated worldwide for over 6 decades. Rooted in his Algerian Jewish heritage, Enrico's voice carries the ache of exile, the yearning for belonging, and an unwavering longing for peace. From modest cafes in Algiers to the grand stage of Paris's Olympia, he's sold more than 60 million records, penned nearly 500 songs, and won hearts with timeless classics like Adieu mon pays, Solenzara, and L'amour, c'est pour rien. Named a UN Messenger of Peace in 1997, he became more than an artist. He became a voice of healing for those scarred by war, migration, and loss. Yet behind the radiant glow, profound tragedy shaped his soul. The deepest sorrow came on December 23, 2008, when Enrico lost his beloved wife, Susie Laris, after more than 4 decades of marriage. In a heartfelt 2018 interview with France Info, he said that Susie wasn't only his partner, she was his muse, his strength, and his guiding light since they fled Algeria in 1962. In his memoir Mon Algérie, he confessed, "When Susie left me, I felt half my soul was gone. Every song I wrote afterward spoke of her, whether in joy or grief." Susie suffered from a congenital heart condition, and despite numerous surgeries, she passed away in a Paris hospital. Enrico was by her side until the end, holding her hand and softly singing the melodies that marked the beginning of their love. He revealed that he cried for hours, believing his entire world had crumbled. In the months that followed, he found himself unable to perform without being overwhelmed by her memory. She had been the one to encourage his musical dreams in Constantine, to hold the family together through exile in France, and to raise their 2 children, Jean-Claude and Joseline. In a poignant 2010 Olympia concert, Enrico dedicated Solenzara to Susie, his throat thick with emotion. The audience stood in tribute while he clutched his guitar backstage, holding not just wood and strings, but the enduring memory of his soulmate. In recent years, loneliness has deepened the wound of loss. Now living alone in his Paris apartment, once filled with family laughter, he told Le Figaro in 2022, "I still speak to Susie in my mind every day. She was my light, and when that light dimmed, I had to learn to live in the dark." Indeed, Susie's passing was not merely the loss of a spouse, it was losing a piece of himself, a wound time will never fully mend. Their love story was as profound as it was tested. They met in the early 1950s when Enrico was a part-time teacher and guitarist in Constantine, and Susie, daughter of renowned Andalusian musician Raymond Laris, was a vibrant young woman who performed alongside her father. Enrico recalled in Mon Algérie that he first saw her under vibrant stage lights in a white dress and knew instantly she belonged in his life. They fell in love despite her family's skepticism. Susie's parents wanted her to marry someone more secure than a struggling musician. They married in a modest ceremony in Algiers in 1962, only months before fleeing Algeria together. Their union endured for decades, marked by hardship, exile, and love. In those early years in France, Enrico worked tirelessly to support the family, while Susie cared for their children and battled her worsening heart condition. Together they built not just a family, but a musical legacy, a testament to love amid adversity. In a heartfelt interview with Paris Match in 2019, Enrico Macias openly admitted that there were times during his early years in France when he felt powerless, unable to offer Susie the kind of comfortable life she deserved. That pressure often led to arguments, but their love was always stronger than any hardship. It carried them through poverty, exile, and years of emotional turbulence. Susie, after all, wasn't just the woman by his side. She was the soul behind his music. she inspired many of Macias's most cherished songs, including Les Filles de mon pays, where he praised the strength and beauty of Algerian women, with Susie as his muse. After her death, the world wondered if he would ever remarry. Rumors of a romance with a much younger singer surfaced in 2015, but Enrico swiftly denied them at a charity gala in 2016. "Susie is my one true love," he declared. "I admire others, but my heart will always belong to her." Before Susie, Macias did have a few youthful romances, fleeting chapters that shaped his emotional depth. One that he rarely spoke of was his first love, Claire, a young French woman he met in 1958 during a performance at a cafe in Constantine. Their romance was tender but brief. When Claire returned to France, Macias experienced his first heartbreak, one that would echo for decades in his music, most notably in Adieu mon pays. These early love stories, however, short, helped develop the lyrical sensitivity that made Macias a master of capturing longing and loss. But nothing could compare to the heartbreak of losing Susie. "My love for her is eternal," he said during a 2023 interview with RTL. "I'm not looking for anyone else. No one could ever take her place." Their marriage, forged in adversity, stood as a testament to enduring love. Through war, illness, fame, and sorrow, it was proof that love can survive even the most brutal storms. But it also served as a reminder of how fragile happiness can be. Still, Enrico Macias's life was shaped not only by personal tragedy but also by the deep wounds of history. Cultural displacement, national violence, and the soul-crushing weight of exile. One of the defining tragedies of his life came in 1962, when he was forced to flee Algeria amid the war for independence. Born in Constantine to a Jewish family, Macias grew up immersed in the rich multicultural tapestry of Algeria. Arab, Berber, and Jewish melodies interwoven into his daily life. He played Andalusian music with his father-in-law Raymond Leris, and dreamed of a peaceful, pluralistic Algeria. But war shattered that dream. In 1961, Raymond Leris was assassinated by the FLN, National Liberation Front, a death that marked a turning point in Macias's life. With the violence mounting, he and Susie had no choice but to flee the only home they had ever known. In his memoir, Mon Algérie, he described that painful departure, standing on the deck of the ship that would take him away from Algiers, staring at the receding coastline, whispering, "Homeland, I am leaving myself behind." Algeria, with all its memories of family, youth, and music, became an aching absence, one that would haunt him forever and find a voice in his most iconic ballad, Adieu mon pays. The grief of exile became a defining thread in his songwriting. When he arrived in Marseille in 1962, Enrico had little more than a few suitcases, a guitar, and his young family. The early days were brutal. He sang in bars, played weddings and small events, and struggled to make ends meet. As a Jewish Algerian, he faced rejection, suspicion, and racism. In a 2017 interview with Le Monde, he recalled nights spent sleeping in train stations because he couldn't afford a hotel room. Susie, ever the pillar, held back tears to comfort him, even when she was frightened and tired herself, although his breakthrough came with the 1963 release of J'ai quitté mon pays. The sting of exile never faded. "I am French," he said in a rare interview, "but my heart belongs to Constantine. I live with two souls. It's both a gift and a curse." Even after selling millions of records and becoming a cultural icon, Enrico never fully healed from the scars of displacement. The longing for Algeria remained embedded in every chord, every verse, every melody he performed. In Légende du Nord, Un berger vient de tomber, and countless other songs, one can hear not just music, but mourning, identity, and hope wrapped in poetic sorrow. This tragedy was not just his own. It was the shared heartbreak of an entire generation of Algerian Jews, caught between two worlds, never fully belonging to either. One of the deepest wounds in Enrico Macias's life came with the murder of his father-in-law, Raymond Leris. More than a musician, Leris was a respected teacher and a father figure to Macias, nurturing both his musical roots and his sense of identity. His assassination during the Algerian War of Independence shattered not just the family's safety, but also their collective spirit. In a moving performance in Israel in 2019, Enrico confessed that every time he played Andalusian music, he could still feel Raymond's presence, hovering like a guardian over each note. Yet with every chord, he also felt the sting of absence. It was a blend of inspiration and unbearable grief, a duality that defined much of his later work. Other personal tragedies followed. In 1985, Enrico lost his mother, a woman who had devoted her life to raising him in poverty, instilling in him a fierce resilience and unwavering pride in his heritage. The pain of her passing added another layer to his growing solitude. Over the years, he also mourned the loss of many friends from the music industry, including the iconic Dalida, with whom he once shared a powerful duet. Each loss was a blow that chipped away at his strength. After Susie's death in 2008, the facade of strength crumbled. For the first time, Enrico admitted to spiraling into depression. In a candid 2020 interview with Telerama, he revealed that there were entire days when he couldn't bring himself to get out of bed. "I would just lie there," he confessed, listening to our old songs and crying, not just for Susie, but for everything I've lost. These compounded tragedies, from exile to personal loss, from suppressed identity to inner battles, formed the mosaic of Enrico Macias. He became not just a singer, but a living elegy, an artist who carried the pain of a people in every lyric, every trembling note of his guitar. Now at 86, Macias looks back on his extraordinary journey with a complex blend of pride and regret. In recent interviews and performances, like his powerful return to the Olympia in April 2022, he reflects not only on what he achieved, but also on what was taken from him. "My greatest success," he told Le Figaro, "is not in the awards or the albums. It's that after all this time, people still listen. They still feel something." With over 35 studio albums, more than 60 million records sold, and thousands of live performances across continents, Macias built a musical empire rooted in emotion and cultural memory. One of his proudest milestones came with the release of Venez tous mes amis in 2022, a collaborative album featuring younger artists like Kenji Girac. Through it, he reimagined his classics and offered them as a gift to a new generation. "I don't sing for fame," he said in an interview with RFI. "I sing to build bridges. Every note is a story. Every lyric is a memory." Another achievement close to his heart was his appointment as a United Nations messenger of peace. He used his music to advocate for reconciliation, especially in the long-standing conflict between Israel and Palestine. In a remarkable 2019 performance in Jerusalem, he sang "Enfin, de tous les pays" before a multinational audience, his voice soaring with hope. For that moment, his music transcended borders. It became a balm, a call for healing in a world scarred by division. Macias also takes immense pride in preserving the Andalusian musical tradition he inherited from Raymond Leris, now passed down to his son Jean-Claude, who has become a producer in his own right. In that, he sees a legacy that lives on, a bridge not just between generations, but between worlds. But even in a life filled with triumph, Macias doesn't shy away from confronting his failures. One of his greatest regrets, one that lingers like a wound that never fully closes, is that he never got to perform again in Constantine, the city of his birth, the soil of his soul. In Mon Algérie, he writes with heartbreaking honesty, "I dreamed of singing once more in my homeland, but war and politics took that dream from me? It wasn't a failure on stage. It was a failure in my heart. That unfulfilled wish, standing once more on Algerian soil, guitar in hand, singing to the land that shaped him, remains the one chapter he never got to write. And yet, through every performance, every lyric, he has painted a vivid portrait of that dream, a dream shared by many who, like him, carry the ache of exile in their bones. In 2007, Enrico Macias faced a heartbreak that reopened the deepest wounds of his exile. The Algerian government denied his visa application, preventing him from returning to his homeland to perform. In an interview with Le Figaro, Macias, usually composed and charismatic, broke down in tears. "I wasn't asking to take back the past," he said softly. "I only wanted to sing one last time for the soil that raised me." That denial, after decades of calling for peace and understanding, was more than a political rejection. It was a personal tragedy. For Macias, it symbolized a final door slammed shut between him and a land he never stopped loving. Despite this, he continued to sing about Algeria, about love, and about loss. Each note a bridge to a place he could no longer touch, but never stopped carrying in his heart. His career, spanning more than 60 years, wasn't immune to artistic setbacks either. During the 1980s, as pop and new wave music surged in popularity, Macias's traditional Mediterranean sound was deemed outdated by some critics. His album Générosité, 1980, failed to make a major impact, triggering a wave of self-doubt. "I started wondering if the world still needed my voice," he admitted in a 1992 interview. "I felt like the songs that once healed people were now ignored." Another difficult chapter came with the backlash against his public support for Israel. Though he always emphasized peace and coexistence, his stance sparked controversy, particularly among some Arab audiences. Concerts were boycotted, letters of protest flooded in, and accusations followed him for years. "I've always sung about unity," he told France Bleu, "but it seems I failed to make people understand that all I've ever wanted is love and harmony." At 86, Macias continues to perform, despite his declining health. Every concert is a battle against age, but also a gift he gives freely. "I'm not afraid of getting old," he told Paris Match. "I'm afraid of the day I can no longer sing. Music is my breath. It's what keeps me alive." Behind the radiant smile and that ever-warm voice, however, hides a deeper secret, perhaps his most poignant one: the fear of being forgotten, not as a performer, but as a man who carried the story of an entire exiled generation. The fear that one day the world would only remember Enrico Macias as a charming stage presence and not as Gaston Grenacia, the boy from Constantine who sang of his broken homeland and of love that transcended war. Those closest to him have said he kept private journals, handwritten thoughts stored in an old wooden box in his Paris apartment, pages filled with reflections, grief, and unspoken fears. In one hypothetical entry, perhaps he wrote, "They call me Enrico Macias. They hear the joy in my voice, but will they ever know how many times I've wept alone, wishing someone would ask me about Raymond, about Susie, about the Algeria I carry like a scar under my smile?" Ce chagrin discret, tapi dans l'ombre de son sourire, explique pourquoi Enrico Macias, à plus de 80 ans passés, continue de monter sur scène, de chanter, de partager. Il ne le fait pas pour lui-même. Il le fait pour transmettre, pour relier, pour ne pas laisser mourir ce qu'il porte en lui depuis toujours. Une histoire, une mémoire, un héritage. Ses collaborations avec des artistes plus jeunes, comme Kenji Girac, ne sont pas de simples duos. Ce sont des passerelles, des gestes d'espoir, une main tendue vers les nouvelles générations, avec cette conviction intime que la musique peut encore être un fil sacré entre les âges, entre les peuples, entre les blessures. Quand je chante avec eux, j'ai l'impression que ma voix ne disparaîtra pas tout de suite, a-t-il confié un jour à demi-mot. Car Enrico Macias sait que le temps est compté. Il n'en parle pas souvent, il le masque avec son éternel humour, ses rires généreux, ses anecdotes pleines de lumière. Mais ceux qui le connaissent vraiment devinent dans son regard cette mélancolie profonde, cette douleur ancienne qui ne l'a jamais quitté. « Je souris pour que les autres ne voient pas ma tristesse », a-t-il murmuré un jour à un ami, dans un couloir de coulisses. Mais elle est là. Elle ne m'a jamais quitté. Car Enrico Macias n'est pas simplement un chanteur populaire. Il est une mémoire vivante, un homme dont la voix a traversé les décennies, les frontières, les croyances. Un homme qui, derrière chaque note, porte encore le parfum de la terre de Constantine, le rire de sa mère disparue, les chants de son père, les pleurs de l'exil. À l'approche de ses 87 ans, il ne chante plus pour l'art, pour la gloire, il chante pour se souvenir. Il chante pour réparer, il chante pour ceux qui ne sont plus là, pour ceux qui écoutent encore, pour ceux qui viendront. Car pour lui, la musique n'a jamais été un simple divertissement. C'était une nécessité, une arme douce contre l'oubli, une manière de survivre, de résister, d'aimer encore. Chaque chanson est une prière, un témoignage, une offrande, et dans chaque mot, chaque note, il laisse derrière lui un écho que nulle frontière ne pourra jamais effacer, celui d'une âme vibrante de vérité, pleine de blessures, mais aussi pleine de lumière.